Dear guests, hello everyone who had just returned from the lunch break here to the Audiovisual Heritage Conference organized by the Ministry of Culture of the Republic of Lithuania. We are broadcasting this conference from National Library, Martynas Mažvydas National Library. We're here alone, but not alone virtually, because in the previous session before lunch break, you might have had heard a lot of inspiration on audiovisual heritage dissemination by Europeana and Wikimedia representatives, as well as Dr. Lina Jančorienė presented a study on audiovisual heritage situation in Lithuania. On this ground, we are continuing to talk on a panel discussion about the governance of audiovisual heritage. And this topic invites a lot of other guests here. Before I present first the panel discussion speaker, who is going to give a short presentation on topic that is being represented by the institution, I want to send good vibes to Ms. Inga Vizgirdienė from the National State Archives. We wish you health in these difficult times, to stay healthy, to get well soon, and we would really miss you in this panel discussion. However, I'm also very glad and proud to present to you another professional from a different institution who will give a short presentation as a first speaker before we start discussing on panel discussion. Ms. Vaida Kazlauskaitė is an assistant manager at Lietuvos kinas, Lithuanian cinema. Lithuanian cinema is actually a kind of institutional heritage itself, because it's a very long time ago established institution. I think Vaida could present more information about Lietuvos kinas in her speech. If we have Vaida online.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, hello. Thank you for joining us at a short notice, and please introduce your thoughts on what you do.
Thank you, first of all, for inviting me. Even at the last minute, it's really a pleasure and an honor to join this international conference and have the ability to present our case of Lithuanian Cinema Company and its archive. First of all, thank you for Lina Kaminskaitė, who has already mentioned a little bit the problems situated around this organization, and I will try to extend a little bit on that speech and give you a little bit more information about our audiovisual heritage. So I have prepared a little presentation, PowerPoint slides, so let me just share you my screen. Okay, perfect. So as it was correctly mentioned earlier, Lietuvos kinas, this is now a joint stock company owned by the Ministry of Culture, was established in the 70s era, in the Soviet era, as a national film rental company, and it was a sole film distributor in Lithuania, which had many cinemas across Lithuania and also a lot of films to distribute to those cinemas. So its main activities back then was subtitling, dubbing, restoring films and distributing them across Lithuania, also publishing film journals and creating hand-painted posters and other promotional material for the theatrical release. Of course, during the digital area and when Lithuania regained, first of all, independence, this national film rental company was rearranged into a joint stock company, as I said, and now 100% of its shares are owned by the Ministry of Culture. When the digital era came and film distribution switched from a film stock to digital film, this company also switched its focus to film screening, film production, and film education. In 2018, it was listed among other similar companies for disestablishment. This is not such bad news, actually, because we hope that it will turn or have a lot of, let's say, what to add to the National Cinematheque, which was also enforced by law in 2018, and will be created by the National Film Center. Okay, let me move to the other slide. So this is just a quick look of what we have in our National Archive. As Lina mentioned earlier, the storage rooms of many of the institutions that have some sort of archival material are not in the best condition. So we at Lithuanian Cinema store films in a positive film stock like this. Actually, this is a funny picture because before even the pandemic, we were used to working with all sorts of masks, and made when we understood that the company is going to be disestablished, we had to, we said that hey guys, we have a lot of films that we don't really know what's in there, and we have to check them by hand and see, what we have, what is this national heritage there, because it was, the catalog was done many years ago, and it was not correct on many levels, and we have to just start all over and see what we have there. So, aside from this film collection that we have, which consists of 13,000 film titles, we also store VHS videotapes, many film posters, and film showing equipment. After our newly established catalog and the evaluation of film content that we have in our archive, we saw that the content can be divided on many levels, and one of them is geography of films. So let's say a big part of the movies that was in the archive was made in the Lithuanian film studio and comprised of fiction, documentaries, chronicles, and animation. Another variety of films, the biggest part of them was created in former Soviet republics and other friendly states, let's say India, China, Korea. So we have a lot of films that belong to or were created in many European countries and now Central Asia countries. Also, as I said, the content can be divided in another category, which is thematic category. And we saw that the content-wise, we can divide these films into Lithuanian films or films related to Lithuania, but which were not created in our country. Also classics, films created by renowned film directors. There were a lot of movies that were prohibited from showing in cinemas at that time because they had some, let's say, topics that were forbidden at that moment, or at least some scenes in those movies. Many films in that collection come from Central Asia, as I said, and there are a lot of films which give us a lot of information about actors, directors, film about historical people, especially political leaders and activists. Also, since our collection is time-wise, let's say, ranges from 30s to 2000, so there and encompass a lot of Soviet films. So propaganda films are a big part of the collection. Strangely enough, we have many films that are dedicated to ecological problems, which are now more and more important. And they speak about problems such as pollution, air pollution, water pollution, and whatnot, which are relevant in these times too. And many films dedicated to children. Now, as I said, when we evaluated and cataloged our collection, we, together with the Ministry of Culture and the National Film Center, agreed to move over 4,000 titles of films related with Lithuania to the National Archive of Lithuania, naturally, because they have much better storage rooms and ability to work with films, to restore them, digitalize and promote together with the National Film Center. Also, we try to save as much information as possible, as much of the archive as possible, and contacted a lot of national institutions to save at least some parts of the collection, which was not only film. So a variety of posters, photos, books, even awards and other props, let's say special couches that were made for film festivals, were given away to a film museum and literature and art archive. The situation that we are facing right now is the remaining 9,000 titles of foreign films, which comprise of around 65,000 of protective items, these little boxes of films. So this is still a big collection which remains in our premises, and its future is uncertain. Now, during the discussions among us and the Ministry of Culture and other parts related with this archive, we heard some kind of problems related with this collection, but I say it's, well, the problems can be put into brackets, or because many of them are solvable and should not restrict us from saving the archive. So some of the things I would like to mention is that this remaining collection of foreign films, it has no rights for the screening content. So we don't have the rights to screen those films or reproduce them in any kind of way. Many films are dubbed in Russian, but well, that's just the reality of it, although I must say that a third of the collection is silent. So a lot of animation, a lot of documentary films that are that have little, let's say, little talk in them. So that's maybe not the biggest problem. And as Lina mentioned earlier, there is actually a problem of storage space. So and the environment in which the archive is stored. But of course, the storage space can be expanded by cooperation with local and international partnership. And another problem, let's say, which we are facing is that this international heritage that we have is not recognized right now as a national heritage. So films that are by the film law in Lithuania, films that are created in Lithuania by Lithuanian authors only fall under this category, whereas films that are international don't have legal protection right now. Other important issues I would like to quickly address. Let's say when we started talking about publicly about the collection that we have and showing the value of it to the society, we received many calls by people who have themselves some small collections of films and would like to give them away to a better storing conditions, let's say, or to make these small collections that they have available to the public. And we accepted some of them during the beginning of this cataloging of our archive, but since our company is undergoing the disestablishment and will be disestablished in 2021 July, obviously we cannot admit more and more collections from the people that have been storing them solely. So this is a question that bears some discussion too. Also, as Lina mentioned earlier, there are a lot of different organizations that protect our audiovisual heritage, but they are scattered across Lithuania, and there is let's say a complicated search engine to find the needed information. As it was today the question from the audience, where can we find the Jewish heritage? And there is no single answer, and you have to go through a really complicated process to find even the places where the information you need is stored. So another very important thing I'd say is the promotion and modern approach to the stored material. Even if we move our archived collection to another place, we have to make sure that this archive that has been collected over the years will be of any use to the public. So are we going to share this, and how are we going to share this collection to the audience? Will it be modern? Will it be, I don't know, interesting to work on, to continue preserving it? It's a really difficult and important question to have in mind. And some of the solutions that we are trying to work out right now, working with the Lithuanian Film Center and with the Ministry of Culture, is to discuss the systematic approach and the continuous management of the audiovisual heritage preservation, because once there is a change in the political area, we have to start all over and discuss all these problems once again, and this just complicates the preservation of our heritage and extends the time which is really needed in this fragile audiovisual heritage. Now, since also, as Lina mentioned, we don't have these best practices in Lithuania, which we could say that, okay, let's do like this organization or another and follow their example. Well, actually, we really need to work with the international cooperations, do international cooperations, and also find ways to get together with national organizations who are already preserving and restoring and working with promotion of various audiovisual heritage. And another thing that I will just quickly point out is the wider approach to the usage and usefulness of archives. In our archive, we have many copies of, let's say, the same film, but with different level of quality. So maybe we could use some of those copies not for the, let's say, primary purpose to promote film and its use, but also to use copies that are maybe in poorer quality to train the, let's say, to train the people who study film, who just let them work with the material, maybe try to learn new skills, new montage skills, let's say, was something that we won't use anymore. Maybe we can find artistic approaches. So that's what we were working at right now. And of course, being a part of this international conference gives us a wider perspective how we can continue to expand our understanding of archives and films in general. So thank you. This was my brief presentation. I hope that I managed to quickly and briefly present our situation, and will be pleased to answer any questions if there are.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Vaida. We do have a question and a reaction from the audience. We are not going to make this with other presenters one by one, since we are having a panel discussion, but Vaida is not joining us for the discussion. Therefore, I will put down the question for you. And before that, I need to... I want to announce some comments coming from Zoom. Your collection of foreign film is invaluable. Make sure they are preserved. They form an important part of the history of your film culture, not least because presumably they have Lithuanian subtitles. This is one reaction, and there's another comment. Do you practice macro evaluation of film in Lithuania? It could be actually discussed during panel later on, but the question specifically for Vaida, which relates to the content that you are operating with, is, are there censored films in your archive? Censored films that are being changed for no propaganda purpose, and do you have originals?
Yes, we do have. Well, let me just say that had film historians and film archivists who were evaluating this collection. And it's not just like me watched the films and evaluated them. So there were film historians working on the catalog, and they, as a separate category, included the films that were sheltered, let's say, that were censored for many reasons. Because they had sexual content, because they showed inappropriate topics, talked about things that during the Soviet period were not allowed, let's say. So yes, we have films that were, even when we see the card of the film, which where it was screened, we have that it hasn't been screened at all in Lithuania. So yes.
Thank you, Vaida. We must go on, but I wish you all the best in your work and for your 9,000 artifacts as well. I hope there will be a solution combining this national and international valuation of pieces in archives. All the best and thank you. Now we go on with another presentation from the guest from Poland. We do have here Maria Drawczyk, the Chief International Projects Expert from National Film Archive, Audiovisual Institute, Poland. Maria, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hi, everyone. I think it's already a good afternoon to all of us, I believe. Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor. It's also a bit frustrating to be just around the corner, I think five hours drive away from you and not be able to join you in person. But okay, this is how it is, and let's make the most of it. Thank you to organizers for this very inspiring day. I was able to join you from the very beginning, and I really am already impressed with all the perspectives that have been shared with us so far. And I was especially keen to hear more about the work that is currently happening in Lithuania. So well done, everyone. And I could relate to really many aspects of your work. I think we're struggling with similar challenges. We are also dealing with similar opportunities or trying to seize them. So I think really the value of collaboration here, it is there. Okay, allow me to share my screen with you so that Okay, I hope everyone can see it. Yes, could someone please confirm?
Yes, we do see you. We do see your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. So here we go. At first I thought that, to be very honest, that this panel, the management and governance is not really my cup of tea, to be honest, because I'm more on the access side. I work for FINA, for the National Film Archive, Audiovisual Institute. This is a Polish national cultural institution where we deal with preservation, digitization, and access, providing access and use of our audiovisual and film collection. So our collection is vast. It is still very much analog. So I can very much, as I said earlier, relate to all the points that Vaida made in her presentation. But we also act as a competence center, and we support other Polish institutions in overcoming some of the challenges linked to digital preservation, simply preservation, and access to audiovisual collections. We also act as a training and education center. So we try to we organize courses and different educational initiatives linked to media literacy, film education. We also run a lovely cinema that sadly will get closed tomorrow because of the pandemic for some time now. So we try to show the beauty of audiovisual Polish and international collections to a number of various stakeholders and various groups. But my part in this lovely puzzle, in this domino, is access. And when I was invited to this panel, I thought, okay, that's a challenge. But after Vida's presentation and her final slides, I think that what I could and would like to add today to the conversation is that we are in a time of a shift of our role as an archive understood as an institution, as an organization, as a body built of a number of teams, people, technology, etc., etc. And I think that the preservation for access that Joses also mentioned in his opening remarks, this is exactly what I believe in, and this is what I think brings in new roles and also new types of skills to the archive. And I would like to focus on these, if you allow. Just before I start, I think just to complete the picture, my experience comes from a number of collaborations, a number of international networks and initiatives that I would love or would like to invite you all to join. And in order to get inspired, in order to share your frustration, Harry did an amazing job introducing Europeana earlier today. That is also part of my community. Where EUScreen has been mentioned on a number of occasions already today too. We are super excited to have the Lithuanian Central State Archive as one of our members. I think this is also one of the platforms where you can exchange knowledge and get support, inspiration, etc. And finally, Fiativta, another community, international community, also focusing on audiovisual heritage, where you can also get information, support, and inspiration. So this is just a brief intro. What I wanted to do today is to talk about this new role that I think kind of new role that I think that we in the archive should or are already have already taken on, and this is something that generates change in the way how we manage and govern and how we think about the future of our work and our archives. And this is what I very much believe in, that we are storytellers, that of course we preserve, of course we secure the heritage, our national, but in many cases international heritage. But I very much believe that we do it for a reason, to tell a certain story. Not only one story, but of course a number of stories, and for various audiences, in various contexts. But I think we are giving an amazing resource that just is out there, and for us to use it. And I would like to share with you today a few examples of how we at FINA think about providing access and us becoming the storytellers, how we see our role, this kind of new role in the new situation, especially now in the pandemic. I think this is no news to anyone. You all see how relevant digital access to culture, to heritage, digital heritage has become in the past months, that we are one of the domains that are really boosting with interest from people, from the general public. And this is the moment to, I think, to rethink our strategies. This is the moment to think how we want to act in the future and who we want to become, who we want to be. Okay, so we are storytellers. A privilege, but also a responsibility. And I think whenever we start a new collaboration, a new project, new initiatives, whenever we want to share a new story, I think we need to always understand what kind of impact we want to have, we want to achieve with it, what kind of effect, what kind of change we want to bring to the community. And for this reason, I suggest that we always, and this is my drill, this is how I do it, that we always start by asking ourselves 3 questions. The first one is the who question. So who do we tell our stories to? who is our audience, who are our stakeholders, who do we want to get into dialogue, into interaction with. Then the second question is, why do we want to tell these stories? What is the main driver behind that? How do we as archivists have a say, and what is the message that we want to convey to the specific group? And the third one is, okay, so how do we do it? What kind of format do we use? Do we nowadays, yes, would we go with the online, something virtual, but how engaging, how immersive, how creative do we want to be? And we can be, given the resources, etc. How much technology we want to use? How do we work with technology? How do we make things happen? How do we make smart use of technology and all the directions that it offers? And so here come the case studies, the few brief examples that I prepared for today. The first one is our VOD platform that we have, that we run at FINA. This is, we have a number of online repositories, similar to Vaida's example. In our collection, we have not only films, different kinds, documentaries, features, newsreels, etc., etc. We also have film posters, we have audio, we have lots of amazing photographs, and we have a number of different repositories for them. But this one is one of our main VOD platforms dedicated to the general public, highly curated. Currently, you will find here more than 8,000 audio or video materials open to everyone. And this will be films, this will be theater performances, this will be radio programs, audiovisual recordings like concerts, debates, discussions. We also act as a producer, film producer, but we also record our own events and then put them online. We see this as part of our mission, and this way we also enrich our archive with more contemporary material. But this is a platform that, as I said, it has it is highly curated. It has an amazing editorial team running it. It's created in dialogue and for the general public. And this is a space that got an amazing, impressive interest during the past months. To give you a few numbers, in I think it was March and April, we had 1.5 million people, unique visitors, visiting the space. And to compare it to last year, the same period, it was 10 times less. So you can see the value of the access, the value of preserving for access, the value of creating these kind of spaces. The big question for now is, okay, how do we maintain it? How do we maintain the interest? I mean, how do we keep people visiting the platform? And what our strategy here is our collaborations. I think this word has also been shared with us earlier today in a number of presentations, and I very much believe in the value of collaboration and all the benefits that it brings to the table. And we follow the same kind of approach when thinking about Ninateka. So to keep the vibe there, to keep the interest in, we started collaborating with a number of film festivals. You know, their situation is also difficult, but what we offer is that we either give them shelter and we become the platform for them where they can screen their films or meetings, etc. Or we create a additional program, like an accompanying program that enriches the program of the festival, allowing people to have a fuller experience. So I think that I very much like this approach, and I like that we are opening up as a FINA to the new ways of working with our other colleagues, with the community, or also looking a bit outside of the community. But I think that the big question still remains. So, and it's an open question, sorry, I do not have an answer here. How do we then use the opportunity that was given to us through the pandemic to keep the interest in? So if you have ideas, please share them in the chat. I will be happy to discuss them further. But let's move on. So this is the general public. Then I think very often we want to reach out to a specific target audience. And I would like to mention here a project that we launched last year. This is one of the victims of the pandemic. I will tell you why in a second. But Map of the Decalogue by Krzysztof Kieślowski, a Polish film director, one of my personal favorites. And he created a TV series based on the 10 Commandments called the Decalogue. So 10 episodes, as you can easily guess. And we decided, and they are all based in Warsaw. And we discovered through different discussions with friends of Krzysztof Kieślowski, but also with film experts. And we saw that, and we felt that his work still very much resonates with the contemporary. And his work is still being discussed. The 10 Commandments, or the Decalogue, sorry, is even used at one of the universities in the States when in the legal department or law department when they teach about the ethics. And this is their starting point. And we thought, okay, so and the relevant point was that it resonates. I think even or the impact of his work is currently stronger outside of Poland than in Poland. The Map of the Decalogue, or the Decalogue itself, it has been shot. It was shot in Poland, in Warsaw, and we decided, okay, let's try to translate this story and all the archives that we have around the film, but also the whole story behind the film. And let's work with film experts to kind of try to bring the story back to us. And we created a map, an interactive map, Decalogue, where a website, a responsive website, marking all the locations where all the episodes were shot in. And we told their story. We also, so we came back to the film. We went back to the film, to the footage. Parts of the footage are on the website too. But we also we decided to retell the stories and also present the locations as they are now. And of course, we linked them back to the story itself, to the film, and we had film experts working with us on that. We wanted people to go back to some fragments, footage, and see how they can still resonate with them, or what's the meaning, what's the today's meaning. But what I like most about this project, and coming back to our role as storytellers, and was simply just a community that has something to say and wants to be part of a bigger dialogue on relevant things, is that we also invited a theologist, an Orthodox theologist, not a Catholic one, to work with us and try to bring interpretation, like nowadays interpretation, from the ethical point of view to the movies, so about the movies. And I think this way we engage and encourage through archives and through our work, we kind of ignite a bigger discussion, or a small discussion on big and relevant things. And this project is very close to my heart. It is not big. It's not pricey. Yes, there is a bit of technology in there. We hope it's useful. We hope this virtual tour that we offer, as we are also connected to Google Maps, so it's really easy to go on a walk with us around Warsaw. But this is, for me, an amazing example of how an archive can have a say in a relevant topic. So, specific target group, that was. Finally, education. I think it has been mentioned before as well. Harry mentioned this too. I think also the second keynote referred to the value of having archives in education. This is a project we did together under eScreen as FINA, and also thanks to Johan's support. By the way, it's so nice to be on a panel with a colleague. This is something that we are finalizing now. This is where we are trying to show how we can support the education, the engaging again and interactive teaching by showing the value of archives, showing the value of especially audiovisual archives. We all say that how powerful they are, how much interest there is, so why not to use it for education purposes. This is a collaboration that we did again in partnership between a number of institutions. Just to show you a brief idea of who we had in the group, is we work together as educators, we work with educators, with historians, and archivists. And what we came up with is a number of 3 learning activities, learning scenarios, and then accompanying materials, encouraging young students. This is a material tailored for high school students to critically discuss history. We focused on the topic of borderland. We focused on topic of migration, of changing borders, the big and relevant questions of neighborhood, how difficult they might be, and what we can learn from them. And we encourage students to based on the footage that they see, to draw their own conclusions, to get into dialogue. And what is relevant, one, I think, especially for today, is that one of these topics that we based the material on 3 case studies, and one of these cases is the Polish-Lithuanian borderland, and the history or a story of a small town called Sejny, and its very turbulent past, and how the neighborhood and how the community changed, and how people were able and sometimes unable to discuss, to find their way in the changing history and changing borders. So this is where we believe this small example is showed that archives really can contribute to a discussion like that too. And it is about learning history, but it's also about media literacy. It's also about critical thinking. And it's also about finding then new interactive ways to share, to engage students. This is also why, for example, as part of their tasks in the program, in one of the activities, they are encouraged to make a stop motion video. And this is our small instruction for them how to do it, like at home, with no special equipment, etc. So this is where we try to combine our work, our field, with something, again, something relevant. And final thing, I think I'm running behind time, and I apologize for that, but I'm wrapping up. I think this, like so many things were mentioned already before, I think this has been mentioned too. The power of archive as a source, as a trustworthy source. And this is also something that I would like to tie closely to our role as storytellers. I think that currently, especially now, we need to make a strong point saying that, okay, here we are, and we bring in our amazing collections that are the source for information. And this is the moment where we should team up, with other colleagues with different domains, and, for example, journalists, to share these stories and tell these stories together. In times of disinformation, misinformation, I think, yes, when we are in between facts and fake, I think this is an amazing role for us to be able to play in the future. And this is something that will be starting soon. Again, collaborating with the Netherlands Institute for Sound and Vision, but also together with a number of universities and, for example, the French Press Agency. This is a training course that we will create for journalism and communication students, teaching them how to use archives, audiovisual archives or multimedia in their work, how to tell the stories, but also how to work with big data and how to show this work as, or be ethical in the approach. So super brief. Final remarks, something I would like to leave you with. Please believe that you are storytellers, that you have a power in yourselves, that we as a community can contribute to this big dialogue, also as a trustworthy source of information. Be always aware and of who your audience is, and put them in your center of your action so that you always understand, are you doing or acting for and on whose behalf. Appreciate collaboration. Any of the projects that I just mentioned wouldn't have been possible without a broader network of experts coming from different fields. Experiment with new technology and storytelling formats. Yes, definitely, and I'm sure Johan will tell more about that. My only point here would be just remember always why you do it, that it's not just technology per se, but it should it should contribute to something. And finally, sometimes a killer when it comes to discussion, but this is the time to rethink your access approach, including the copyright, including licensing models. This is the time when we should regroup, as I said, and think about how we want to provide access. And in that sense, how do we want to manage and govern our archive? Okay, I think this is it from me. Thank you very much. I'm very much looking forward to the panel, and this is me finishing with one of my favorite shots from Three Colors, of course, by Kieślowski. Okay, thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, Maria. Please stay with us for a while. We'll meet in a panel discussion, which is called Management and Governance of Audiovisual Heritage. And that was a wonderful introduction. Actually, a lot of management was there, and I'm glad that an institution takes to itself tasks of management, function, dissemination, education, a part of restoration and keeping archives. So we are moving on to our next presenter, which is also going to speak with us on our panel discussion. It is Johan Oomen, Head of Research and Development, coming from Netherlands Institute for Sound and Vision. So if you are here with us, please, the floor is yours.
So yes, my name is Johan Oomen. Thanks for the introduction, and also thanks organizers for inviting me to be on the agenda. It's incredibly interesting lineup that you've managed to put together. I just wanted to start with wishing us all happy World Digital Preservation Day. Maybe not all of you are aware, but this is happening every year on November 5th. So it's definitely part of our community's endeavors. And I don't know if you are on Twitter a lot, but there's today that's this hashtag Bitlist Bake Off, where archivists and other preservation experts are sharing cakes that have been inspired by the Happy World Digital Preservation Day. So this is all very wonderful, I think, so make sure to take a look. Sound of Vision. So this is where I work. A picture from the inside of the building. We are a audiovisual archive and media museum. This is what, if you would go into our holdings using Google Maps, you will find some of our, audiovisual object collections. And this is a shot from our digital storage facility. So Sound of Vision, very briefly, combines three roles. One is that we are a media museum based both in Hilversum, where I showed a few indoor pictures from, and also since this year we have a second museum Beeld en Geluid Den Haag in The Hague that focuses on freedom of press. And so in Hilversum and The Hague, we, as I said, we operate a museum, and also we invite people to come over to attend programming related to media. So second, we are the National Audiovisual Archive in the Netherlands. So one of our biggest and ever-growing collection is that of the public broadcasters. So public broadcasters use Sound of Vision as their production archive. Next to collections ranging from film and television, we are also collecting websites, web video, games, and interactive documentary films. So there's a lot of emphasis also now in archiving born digital collections, and they obviously come with their own challenges. And in order to manage this growing collection, make sure that we can provide access to it, we are using, next to using, say, the expertise of people working at Sound of Vision, we are also more and more using AI to help us guide the process. And second, we do research and development. EU Screen, for instance, is a network of audiovisual television archives across Europe. And recently we started a large project, AI for Media, with partners from across Europe that researches the best use of AI in the media domain. So you can find more information about our research projects when you follow us on Twitter. The hashtag is on the bottom right. I will make sure that this presentation is shared right after my talk, and I will share the link on my Twitter. So in my talk, I will basically like to touch upon three topics. One has to do with moving away from a traditional way of navigating through an audiovisual collection, which is searching for a collection, for a object, towards exploration, and I will go in more detail later. Second, this is nicely following Maya's remarks about archives opening up a way to have a conversation. So archives, so that means a reconfiguration of how we work together with our audiences. And third, I would like to close with three important preconditions that we have to put in place in order for the conversation and for the exploration to happen. Throughout my talk, you will find works of one of my favorite artists, Silvinas Campinas, and I hope that you appreciate his work as well. I'm a big fan. So I started with Digital Preservation Day, but it has to be recognized that today is actually in line with the World Day for Audiovisual Heritage that we celebrated as a community last week. So Sound of Vision was quite active. One of the things that we announced last week was that we are the first European archive that is using DNA as a storage medium. Ari Verwaayen mentioned that also our colleagues in Australia are doing something similar. So this is quite was quite very nice to share this news last week. So let's dive into the gist of what I would like to share. So from searching to exploring. A usual or say traditional way for a user to use an archive is targeted search. So basically a search box where you can enter a search query, and then as a result you will get a page with different object results, and then that will take you to a specific object. However, this will requires that people actually know what they are looking for and are able to express what they are looking for in a textual query. And also that there is a link between the query and actually the way that the archive is organized. So if there is a discrepancy between the say the catalog records and the textual query, then you would not find a match. And also it requires the user to know what's actually in the collection. And this means that the full potential of audiovisual collections isn't reached, and that there is a lot of potential that we can still explore. So search is stingy to making search more generous. That's the topic that I would like to touch upon. And this is sort of representation what I just mentioned. So there is this, say collection, and a user is looking for a specific item. This is one way that that search is organized. But there are other ways, and they have to do with going from a collection to an item by looking at sets of data or looking at sub-collections. So this way you can actually, as a user, drill down a collection and find what you are looking for without a specific query that you started with. And another option is exploring the collection through horizontal exploration. I'm sorry, where you actually within the collection you navigate. So I'm now going to show three drafts, three experimental designs that we are working on, and again. The links are on the first screen, are on the page, and I'm sharing these slides. So the first is the Open Images browser, and this provides access to the collection of newsreels of sound and vision, let's see. I'm going to try and start the video. I hope this works. There is no sound, but it shows how this interface allows users to actually start from the entire collection, so the shots, the keyframes of the entire collection, and then drill down in the collection by clicking on different keywords. So for instance, keukens, that's kitchens. So you can see the different kitchens in the collection, and it shows that in the 1950s we have 5 videos connected to kitchens. So from kitchens you can then click to other related videos. So that's quite a new way to navigate a collection. So I don't need to use these backup slides. That's very nice. This is another way that you can navigate the collection by basically filtering using these filters. So you have just the thumbnails in this case, and then you can just look at the sort of the image and see what kind of videos you would like to explore. And you can also select, again, the different decades that you would like to look at. Second demo that I would like to show is VPRO Backlight. And this starts from a collection of the Backlight documentary series. And this series has been on Dutch television for 20 years, and it touches upon different topics. So every year there are, say, between 10 and 15 different episodes. And over the 20 years, some of the topics in those episodes have returned, basically. So recurring themes. And so we organized the collection in this way. So each of the colors represents a theme. And if you go to the left-hand navigation space, you can select different topics. So in this case, I selected media and religion. And so you see clusters of media and clusters of religion. And then in the bottom right corner, you see that some topics, some of these episodes are actually closely connected to each other, even though they are from the main topic is the same, or it's not broadcast in the same year. Still, these are connected. Well, if you click on those detailed on the detail page, you would find that both of these both of these items talk about the relation between religion and economy. So this is a very interesting way, I think, to again navigate the collection. In this case, it's 530 items of a single documentary series. You can also display these items on the timeline. So again, these are media, religion related objects across the time. The third example is Semia. And I'm just going to see if I can show it working live, because that's the most interesting. So this screen that you see basically is a collection of over 100,000 shots from our collection, and also the collection of the iFilm Museum. And what I'm going to do, and sometimes it's a bit slow, so bear with me, this is very experimental, is I'm going to just launch one image, one video based on the entire collection. And what we will see next is a video player that allows us to go from one shot to another shot using artificial intelligence. This is going to give it a few more seconds, and otherwise I will show my backup slides.
De productiecapaciteit van deze nieuwe wasserij bedraagt per jaar 2 miljoen ton.
So, the interaction in this case is in the player itself. If you look at the bottom left, you see a circle, and the circle now shows that we are exploring this collection based on image similarity. For instance, the search engine relates this item to this item, and this item to this item, and you can see that there's a certain visual similarity. And another way to navigate this is by using camera movement. So you see that the image is changed. So now you see these two arrows, and now the system is looking at this the movement on the screen. You can see that there's a similarity moving from left to right. So you can imagine, I'm now going back to my slides. You can imagine how interesting it is to use these kinds of modalities to explore an archive. Okay, I'm now moving to the second part of my talk, and that has to do with public engagement, and it links to the fact that archives have a lot to offer. And I won't go into much detail because I think Maya explained this to very clearly and in lots of detail. So we have collections, we have context, but also we have a place in society. So there is, for instance, there's enthusiasm around our institute, and I think also in your case, for instance, volunteers that help out, for instance, in the museum or making annotations. And also we are offering the museum space as a way for people to get together. So one way to explain the power of an Cultural Heritage Institute in this sense is by this quote from Cory Doctorow. Content is just something to talk about. Conversation is king. So this is about how can audiovisual archives or cultural heritage organization in the broader sense can facilitate conversations. And I think a way better quote was just shared by Maya. We are storytellers. So yes, this is an interesting and I think new way for audiovisual archives to be present. I'm just going to show some examples, and only one of the examples is from Sound and Vision itself. This is a platform called History Pin, and History Pin allows communities to upload audiovisual records, for instance, pictures, but also videos and oral histories to the platform, and that are then say organized and shared. And this is something that people can, for instance, share on their social media channels, but also have a conversation online about these kinds of topics. This project, Corona in de Stad, is a project from the Amsterdam Municipal Museum. And this started, I think, April, May, inviting citizens of Amsterdam to deposit collections related to the pandemic in a portal that was hosted by the Amsterdam Museum. So Amsterdam Museum made the portal, but then the conversation was actually facilitated, but it was the citizens themselves that are having these conversations and providing objects. So one of the exhibitions, for instance, is a collection of field recordings where you can listen to Amsterdam during the lockdown, and make comparison between the noises that the city makes and then the quiet in say April. So incredibly interesting, and this so the Amsterdam Municipality Museum acts as a curator and amplifies the messages shared by the citizens themselves. One of my all-time favorite projects is from the US, StoryCorps, inviting, for instance, families to record their family stories. And this is done in mobile recording booth in museums. And then these collections are annotated and shared on, over the StoryCorps portal. And also incredible a way to make connections between people living in different cities, etc. And they are also used, these oral histories, as the basis of very well made animations. So basically the story that people share is now turned into a new piece of, into a new story. Very nicely made, as I said. Just to finish, this is a project that Sound and Vision has done together with a creative agency, Dropstuff, and this was related to our game collection. So what we created, and I will just show the video. Maybe that's best. So what we created was a installation connected to a video game that we archived, a video game from the 90s that it's called A2 Racer, and it's basically a game where you, well, like you can see, you are driving your car. So this is archived in our collection, but then we augmented it into a, as you can see, a real life game that we showed in different festivals, where we actually turned this game into a escape room. So you have to do all kinds of things to get out of the, well, to get to the end of your travels. So this is incredibly engaging, and it's also a nice way to show audiovisual archive collections in a completely new way. I need, so a few minutes to go, and I just want to share, three preconditions that I think are important as we are designing, collaborations that are generous in the way that they present an archive collection, and are also creating ways to have a conversation, not only with an archive, but basically a conversation about a collection between an archive and all the community that they are part of. So first off, this is, Maya ended with the point about copyright. I will do the same. And I think it's incredibly important that public organizations think about how they can make their collections available. And if collections are available, then you can do all the neat things that we've been talking about today. So, and one way to do it, and I'm not saying it's an easy way, but you see that there are some broadcasters in Europe that are exploring how they can use Creative Commons licenses to share their collections. And I think this is incredibly powerful, and I think it should be explored further. Second, we have to think about impact. So if cultural heritage organizations are facilitating the kind of interactions with audiences that I've been talking about, then it's important that they are not only, evaluated, from the government by their economic impact. So for instance, how many tickets have you sold, or how many downloads have been sold, basically. So, but look also at, for instance, the social impact that organizations can have. And the Europeana Impact Working Group has provided, I think very good and practical ways to have a dialogue about how to measure impact. And just to finish, at the moment, cultural heritage organizations are very much dependent on third-party platforms when it comes to sharing their collections. Sound and Vision has a YouTube channel, for instance, and we are also present on Instagram, etc. But I think it's good time also to think about what this actually means. What does it mean for publicly funded organizations to be, say, dependent on for-profit third-party platforms to share their collections? This is a big debate, and we can talk about this maybe next year. But I would just want to point to, for instance, the initiative called Public Spaces that tries to promote an alternative ecosystem that is more open, that is has algorithms that are not built for retention, but rather about time well spent. So how can we provide a more, say, public way to share our collection using those values? I mean. So I leave it here. Thank you very much. We have a few minutes for a panel. I'm looking forward to having a discussion with you. And I'm now handing it over to the central chair, I think.
Yes, the central chair is here. Thank you, Johan, for your wonderful presentation. While Maria Drabčik is joining us back, as well as Mr. Juozas Markauskas, the president of the Baltic Audiovisual Archival Council, is back here from the beginning, from the keynote speech. As we will have them here all together, I want to encourage those who are listening to us or participating in Zoom platform or seeing us on Facebook, please don't hesitate. Put your questions, comments, reflections on what you hear. And while we are still joining with our panel speakers and participants, the question that might be heard for everyone, and it was put for Vaida previously. She was asked whether they do have censored films in their archives. I wondered, do you guys, Maria or Johan, do you have censored films archives in your disposition?
Shall I begin? Of course, we come from the same part of the world. Of course, we do. So I don't know whether how should I explore further? It is a delicate issue. It is an amazing, I think, field for exploration, and this is what we do. We have in our team film experts, and they. I think we had a conference last year about propaganda movies that we have. I might be wrong here. I think we have, but this is like we definitely open up the collection for researchers or to researchers, and we like to explore it with them. So I think it's part of our history. This is an amazing story again to tell. I'll keep referring to the storytelling, but I think this is an amazing research area, super relevant. I think extremely relevant these days for when it comes to also disinformation and the power of simply information and disinformation. So yes, we do, and yes, we work with it.
Johan, what about you?
Yeah, there was a bit of a glitch. Can you repeat the question, please?
I was just asking, do you have censored movies, censored films in your archives?
Yes, we do. For instance, images that are shot in hospitals or in prisons, those are not available for reuse, for instance. But yeah, maybe it's good to, but I don't think that's the same as censored.
Yeah, true that. Well, it was just a short opening up of our discussion. I would really like to broaden the topic in a way we speak of an importance of inter-institutional, of multi-institutional collaboration for preservation and dissemination, reuse of audiovisual heritage. But we also do have a kind of worldwide trend of being interdisciplinary, of being like intersectorial, cross-sectorial. Cross-sectorial is the whole title of financing from European Union, for instance. My question is how do you work with different sectors other than audiovisual heritage, other than heritage itself, such as tourism, cultural? Well, education was quite clear that most probably you do, but what about other creative industries or sectors like fashion, food, urban planning, for instance? Yes. Are we here?
Yeah, I think we are trying to fix the order here. We should. Johan, do you want to start?
So in my talk, I mentioned this collaboration where we turned this game into a fun fair attraction, basically. So that's, I think, a very nice idea how to work with it. It's also inviting, say, visual artists to do residencies in collection is also something that we really enjoy, because this allows for new types of creativity, things that we would never think of ourselves. And also the collaboration with journalism is, I think, strengthened because of digitization and because we can make our archives now available also to them, and make it available not only as a way to, as just a collection, but also use the technology that we can provide to actually do data-driven journalism. So using speech to text, or using visual analysis and recognizing faces, so we can actually do much more with journalists that we could do in the past.
So what I could add to that, I fully agree with what Johan said, and all the stakeholders he mentioned in various groups. We also, when thinking about the map of the Decalogue, we also thought about collaborating, and we started collaborating with the city of Warsaw. So it links back to tourism. And this is when the pandemic came in, and our idea to have to combine the storytelling that we created with organizing just physical walks around Warsaw. It kind of got postponed. So, but there is, I think, the idea of going back to that once we can, and trying to put digital archives in a very physical context. So I think this is something that I could add to that. And we are also currently working with a publishing house, also with the author and a graphic designer, on a book for kids. Inspired by our archive, and actually not only our archive, but just we linked it back to Europeana, and this is where we are writing a book, and then we'll turn it into an audio book. I think we already turned it into an audiobook. We already recorded that, and it's for kids, for the little ones. It's about ecology and how you can really talk about these relevant issues, climate change, using archives. And there is a bit of a criminal factor in the book, but I really love how the author and now the graphic designer, they got inspired by our collection and collections of our colleagues, and how we again are able to see the archives being used in a not really such an obvious context.
Yes, do we have Juozas with us?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Yes. I am here.
Yes, thank you very much. Since I don't see you, I need to ask. I just wanted to put a small remark before I give a floor to you, to your word, Juozas, about the organization of our panel discussion. I think we don't need to give a word to each other. If we have a topic, please feel free to enter it whenever you feel like this, okay? Just small remark, yes.
So I would like to add to this that actually no archive is an island, because of the collections are interconnected with other collections kept in different countries and different institutions, and there is no way how you can avoid the networking and cooperating. And both presentation on this panel, they're really amazing, and the platforms presented to us And now I have questions for our panelists, because I believe they are really doing that, but maybe there was not enough time to mention. And I'm talking about the end user involvement into the development of these services. Like then you are building the portal, then you are exploring new ways of presenting the content. It is really important to learn about the audiences, what they expect, because we as an archivist and project management sitting in one room, we can think that our audience are expecting one thing or another, but maybe this is not definitely true. So I would be really happy to hear experience from Johan and Maya, if they are including like the end users, like usability surveys and the development processes.
Yes, we are. As FINA, we do. I think, to be very honest, not always from the very beginning. And this is where I would like to send you back to the impact playbook that Johan shared, because it sets really a nice process for how it should be done. But then we go back to a question of resources, time, etc. But I fully agree that this is super relevant, and that, okay, we can sit together as a group, and I think there is already value in that if we do it, because I think that not always we do. But of course, and I'm a sociologist, so I love surveys and I love ask questions and reach out to the community that we then want to involve and we want to create something for, or hopefully with, as you said. So we do now. For example, now we are changing Ninateka, so the platform, the VOD platform service that I showed, and this is part of the process. Sometimes, in case of the educational project that I shared, we in terms of education, it's a bit different because you basically know who your target group is. But I think that the key thing in this respect is that you invite them at some point to test your approach before you make it available, before you publish it. And this is what we did in the project. So whenever once we felt more or less ready, okay, this is the learning scenarios, we see that, yeah, it should be okay, this should work out. Then we set out testing groups. And I think, so of course, if you can, always start with the research and with survey and reaching out to your audiences and asking them about their wishes and needs. But yeah, it's still not always the case.
Maria, I can hear that this very complex activities that you do or you should do or you're, I don't know, are or will be expected to do in time. Do you use your inner sources like people, or you outsource the services for, you know, what kinds of, how's the work organized? I think you should have a really big team to do very various things in order to achieve all those goals and tasks that you mentioned.
Not really. I think, for example, you can use your social media channels to do it. You can go with the online service when it's about your, for example, an existing platform that you are running, that you want to test. This is something that Europeana is doing all the time, and I really appreciate that a lot. Whenever there is for example, a new exhibition a virtual exhibition being published, then there is immediately an online survey testing, okay, what do you think about it? And it's there are tools at hand. I think you really can find them open source. So it's of course a question of your time as a team, and I think not many institutions have a dedicated person to be able to do it. But I think it's part of this shift in our role and the new task that we have. And then I think the third thing would be just a community that you have around you. And I think we as institutions, public institutions, we do have them in different areas. We have researchers, we have educators, and we have our visitors, be them online or visiting our physical spaces. So I think we could try to use them.
Okay, since we are a little bit out of time, kind of, but we still have some minutes I would like to open up for discussion one topic which actually comes out of and from everything which becomes or is digital and goes through social media and different media channels, the artificial intelligence. What is your approach to it? Is it a challenge? Is it a danger, an opportunity? Does it scare you, or you think that it's a great thing, or you use it already, at what extent, etc.?
You want me to say a few words? So it's definitely an opportunity, and it's I think important for cultural heritage institutions to invest in building enough knowledge to actually counter the potential effects that you don't want to have. So it and doesn't mean that every archive needs to employ computer scientists, but it would be, I would encourage to be present in the debates that are going on in different EU member states about ethical AI, for instance. So, I'm pretty sure that, universities have research that are dealing with these topics. So try to find those experts and work on a company strategy. And also, this is not something that it's a blank sheet. Also, there's quite a lot of writing already about ethics and AI. So it's about applying those principles and make sensible decisions. That would be my 1 minute answer, but I can also give a lecture about it for a bit more if people like.
Oh yes, anticipating somewhere on a different platform. Anything else from colleagues? Joses, perhaps you do have the insight on the AI usage for audiovisual heritage.
Yes, of course. I think that this is an advantage we have today, and we can take many examples and many ways how we can implement the AI in our workflows, but trying to be short and fit in 1 minute, I can give an example of the image recognition and metadata creation. It's like the one thing, then we describe the image and create metadata, and this is done by the professional curator, so he can take the photograph and write that this is a daguerreotype or glass negative, very professional terms. But then you take the AI, so it can give you a completely different tags and metadata and keywords for the same image, which is sometimes more user-friendly because of the AI things like Google think and the Google think like the end user thinks. So you can have more chances that your content will be accessible and someone will find this. But just to wrap up, I think that this is really important and this is an advantage we have.
Yes, since we are kind of one step in a coffee break, my last suggestion is perhaps others of you would have a question to panel colleagues, which could be put out here and answered. Maria, Johan? I think Joses has used it already.
We are constantly in touch. It's I no new questions today.
Okay, so shall we thank all of us for being here on this panel? Hopefully management and governance would work in alliance as well as with new technologies and other sectors. That is my kind of wish, and I wish you all in your work. Please stay with us after a coffee break, and to our people online who are watching this conference, I invite you all into our virtual coffee break where you can see some archives from Lithuanian national broadcaster, radio and television, and enjoy whatever you wish to enjoy during a break which will last for 15 minutes.
Seniai Vilniaus stogai, pražylę samaną žalia, einu lik paukštis lengvai, seną siaurąją gatvelę. Stogai senieji, kai jūs tik pamatau, aš pajaunėju ir tyliai pasakau. Aš jaunas, aš jaunas, aš jaunas, senieji Vilniaus stogai, nušviesti ryto spindulių, aušra nušvinta rausvai, ir aš miegoti negaliu. Nešuosi mintį Vilniautais rytais, tave dabinti ties naujais stogais, dabinti, dabinti, dabinti. Vilniaus stogai, užgimė vidurį dienos, balkonai šviesus langai, nerimsta prašosi dainos. Ir aš dainuoju pilna krūtinė, jaunasis Vilniaus, tu suprask mane. Aš jaunas, tu jaunas, aš jaunas, tu mano Vilniau jaunas.
Na, dabar čia į muzikinę viešbučio sceną aš norėčiau pakviesti tris tokius, fantastiškus, virtuozus. Iškart atskirsite Gintarę Skerytę. Ar atskirsite? Atskirsite. Po to iškart atskirsite turbūt Edgarą Prutkauską. Ir trečias, be abejo, kadangi daugiau nebus, bus turbūt Dainius Puišys. Tarsime, jiem pasirodant viens po kito scenoje, galite kelt ovacijas. Taigi, superinis trio. Jarokė, tu primeni man kažką iš čigonų muzikos. Dievino, fantastika, kaip gražu žiūrėti. Kas sako, kad estrada trumpalaikė, kažkokia taip pat išnykstanti? Pažiūrėkite. 3 puntukai. Taigi, Foxtrotomanija.
Skamba šviesi daina, toli tamsoj, tavo skaisčias akis aš pamačiau. Tu laimė amžina ir širdies daina, nakties tamsoj gūdžioj. Saulutė, saulutė, aš myliu tave. Saulutė, saulutė, mylėk tu mane. Tavo akelės, tai šios žvaigždelės. Saulutė, saulutė, aš myliu tave.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Audiovisual Heritage and its Potentials conference organized by Ministry of Culture of the Republic of Lithuania. You are here with us, hopefully for all day long, and we had 2 big sessions behind us. We heard about dissemination practices from huge platforms, Europeana and Wikimedia, as well as we heard how do archives as institutions deal with the audiovisual heritage, how do they restore, how do they reuse it, how do they organize their managemental tasks in the panel discussion as well. And now we are coming back for a dessert. Hopefully you are all safe and sound there in your homes or offices or wherever you are at your computers watching this broadcasting. So here we are for a digital dessert, a conference dessert, which will contain of good practices. This session is, the last session is meant for good practices in the world or in the region, should I say. And I want to welcome one of four speakers of this session from very close from Lithuania, our neighbors from Latvia. Zane Grossa, the head of audiovisual collection in the National Library of Latvia, will present us good practice that they experience in their institution, and we will be able to have questions. The Q&A session is in the end of all speakers' presentations. So please put your questions on Zoom or on Facebook. If you are listening to us and watching us on Facebook, questions will be announced after all speakers come out. Yes, do we have Zane? Hello.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here or to be online. And today I would like to look at the audiovisual heritage digitization in Latvia and the bigger picture, so to say. And so there have been, in the last decade, there have been several larger projects where institutions with audiovisual collections have increasingly carried out digitization of these materials. And today I'm going to look at some of the largest projects in Latvia in recent times. So I'll look at each of these listed in more detail. So first of all, the Museum of the Occupation of Latvia from 2015 to 2017 have digitized their videotaped oral history interviews. And this is a project that was done in collaboration with Stanford University, USA. And the digitization was done by Memnon in Belgium. So as you can see, more than 4,000 hours from more than 3,000 carriers were digitized. And the interviews that were digitized focused on the interwar period in Latvia and Second World War, on the events in the region. The interviewees escaped from the country during the war and their life in German camps and Western countries. The Soviet and Nazi deportations from Latvia, imprisonment in the Gulag, national resistance movement, and others. And ideally, I would like to play you a short video of this material, but I'll see how it goes. And at the moment, only a small portion of the collection, 10 interviews, is currently publicly available. And that is, of course, partly because the content is so sensitive. You know, these are interviews with people who tell about their life stories. However, the majority of collection is still accessible on site, and it is available for those visiting the Special Collections Reading Room in the Stanford libraries, or by making an appointment with the Museum of the Occupation of Latvia. All the interviews are available for viewing, except for those where the interviewee has forbidden such use. Okay, and shortly I'll stop my screen share and go to the interview. Okay. So can you see the screen now? I'll play a short excerpt.
Vai tas ir, ja tur lūza zariņš, vai tur kas bija, viņi jau to zināja, bet es vienāk bailēs trīcēju. Tur zvērs skrien, zari lūst, es domāju, nu jau mums ir. Tad man viņi tur apmācīja. Varbūt teikt, neteikt. Šaut. Tur man bija jāapsola, kā tik par kazaldātu. Nu tāds tam apmēram līdzīgs, jo tomēr es esmu sieviete un nekādas atšķirības tam nebija, jo es biju līdzīga tagad viņiem. Man bija jābūt ne jau zem parakta kāda. Nu kāds parakts varēja būt, uz kāds rakstīsim. Un kur te labāsim uz vēras. Tā taču man bija savu draugu priekšā jāapsolās, kad es nenodošu viņus. Un kad es pildīšu tās pavēles, kas man tiks uzticētas, kas man būs jādara.
Okay, now we'll go back to my presentation. Next, I would like to tell you a bit more about the Latvian and Radio Archive Digitization project. So this project was implemented from 2012 to 2015, and it was supported by the European Regional Development Fund. As a result of this project, the digitization, preservation, and accessibility of the most valuable and historically significant audiovisual materials stored at the Latvian television and radio archives was achieved. The information and communication technology infrastructure was also developed, which ensures both preservation and access to the digitized materials. And the content of this digitized material is available through the portal diva.lv. This is an access portal for these recordings, and most of the content is copyright protected and can be viewed in one of the more than 800 public libraries in Latvia, and also at the National Library. The content can be searched or browsed alphabetically or chronologically, as well as by keyword or other criteria. There are also lists of selection of the most watched audio and video content. And again, I'll see if I can play you a little bit of this content. I will stop sharing for a moment and go to my screen. Okay, and I hope you can see it now. And I would like to play you a little excerpt of one of my childhood programs. Okay, I will stop this fragment now. So, next, I would like to tell you a bit more about the biggest project that is currently happening. And this is the digitization of the cultural heritage. I'm going to tell you more about the first stage of this project. So this is, again, a co-funded project of European fund and state, Latvian state, and there are four big project partners: the National Library of Latvia, National Archives of Latvia, State Inspection for Heritage Protection, and the Cultural Information System Center. And this project is digitizing more than 3 million pages of text. Also many thousands, hundreds of thousands of valuable cultural artifacts, including maps, photographs, but as well, you can see the numbers there, many minutes of audio, video footage, and cinema footage. And the main objective of this project is to ensure the wide availability of Latvian cultural heritage to society in the digital environment. So a bit more about the content of this project. As you can imagine, this actually the content comes from many organizations in Latvia, not just from those big project partners. So, for example, for the sound, we have content from the Latvian radio, news programs, concerts, event recordings. We have oral history interviews, music recordings, but also Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty recordings, and memories of politically repressed persons, videos. Also, it's quite varied. Again, we have broadcasts from Latvian TV. We have parliament meetings and committees meetings. Also video documents of the previous 3 presidents of Latvia, as well as KGB materials, interviews that they did with interrogations. And from the National Library of Latvia, we have our legal deposit recordings on VHS, video cassettes, as well as Latvian diaspora, cultural life and events, and also small video collections of other organizations. As far as the film content goes, this comes mostly from the National Archives of Latvia, and they are digitizing feature films as well as newsreels, Soviet period cinema journals, documentaries, animation and puppet films. A bit more about my workplace is the National Library of Latvia participation in this project. So in determining the priorities of what to digitize from our audiovisual collection, we looked first at what kind of material is most at risk of obsolescence and lack of replay machines. It is essential to preserve the content of those carriers that soon might be unplayable. In our collection, there are mostly commercially produced items and carriers, those that are sold in consumer markets, such as CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, vinyls, shellacs, but also audio and video cassettes. Although we know that optical discs can be quite unstable, in our view, the commercially produced magnetic tape carriers were most in need to be digitized. Also, we can digitize optical discs in-house, whereas we don't have equipment to do large-scale magnetic tape digitization. So for this first stage of the project, we selected almost 400 VHSs. And for the next stage, which I'm not going to be talking about today, we also be digitizing audio cassettes as well as more video cassettes. So what is the content of our digitized material? This is mostly, not mostly, but there's several sort of categories. One is documentation of events that happened during the awakening period and in the period regaining independence from the Soviet Union. So those would be meetings, big public meetings with speeches about independence, political marches, also meetings of our National Front, but also recordings of cultural events such as theatre plays, concerts, some song festival events. Also, lately we have been receiving donations from Latvians abroad, also on VHS cassettes, that document their cultural and social life. There are many Latvian communities active abroad, such in many countries such as Australia, United States, Canada, Sweden, and other countries. So the video recordings that were digitized as part of this project are all available for viewing in the digital library portal of the National Library. And they can be searched either by the library catalogue or directly at the digital library page. This is a view of the catalogue description. As you would see, it on our library's catalogue. And the circled part denotes the link, direct link to the digital version. So the viewer, the reader can go directly to this digital object and watch it. Because of copyright reasons, the videos are only available for viewing at the library. However, the data and metadata of the items are freely available over the internet. And this is the same object as viewed on our digital library page. And I was hoping to play some of it to you, but it's actually, it loads quite slowly because you can see the file is quite big. It's more than 100, more than, almost 3 hours long. And in this particular video, you would see moments from the Baltic Way, this freedom demonstration where all the Baltic peoples formed a human chain throughout the Baltic republics. And a few words about dissemination. Well, this is very much a work in progress because part of this big project also includes development of interface and tools for offering this digitized material to the public. So bigger organizations can disseminate their own digitized materials via their own sites and collections. However, small institutions lack the capacity to build their own collection sites. So we definitely have a need for universal interface that could be very capable of showing all kinds of digital materials, be it text or maps, audio, video, and any others. And a very good example of disseminating their recently digitized content is by the National Archives of Latvia, who have this digital repository Redz Dzirdi Latviju, or See Hear Latvia. And you can access it through this address on top. And then recently, from October 1st, they opened for public viewing without copyright restrictions, although this is only within Latvia. A large collection of approximately 3,000 titles of newsreels and documentaries created between 1910 and 1996. These newsreels are the richest and most widely used documents in the archive. They allow one to understand the historical changes that have affected Latvia during the 20th century. The total duration of this collection is 450 hours, and as I said, it was digitized as part of this project, the first stage. And I was hoping to show you a fragment of a video, but actually I'm not sure that the sound is working, or it's quite difficult to move between a few screens, so maybe I won't risk it this time. But you're welcome to go to this web address and just have a look yourselves, because I believe there are some videos that can be seen worldwide. And I thank you very much, and that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zane. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your work for Audiovisual Heritage. And here we have already, and it is my honor to present our distinguished guest from ICCROM, one of leading center of competences worldwide, probably Aparna Tandon, as a senior program leader at ICCROM, will present us a sound and image heritage, the digital imperative for creative use and equitable access. Do we have Aparna already? Yes, I can see you. The floor is yours. Big applause, virtual applause for you.
good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, finally. We're really happy to see and to hear you here in this conference. Please welcome, and the floor is yours, Aparna.
Thank you so much. At the outset, I would like to send greetings to everybody and especially thank the Ministry of Culture and the Baltic Audiovisual Archival Council for extending this invitation to ICRO. And I have a presentation. So I hope everybody can see my presentation, my screen now. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, fine, thank you. I'll stop my video in order to keep the voice quality. So for a while, I'll stop my video and just make my presentation. Okay, thank you. So as I said, good afternoon, everybody. Yesterday, many of us were busy watching twists and turns in the US elections and in a life that has been reduced to our living rooms. Sounds and images have become our windows to the world, to the outside world. These sounds and images are connecting us with the outside world, connecting us with different cultures, distant lands, crossing times and barriers. Web streaming services have made it possible for us to be connected with cultures and people. Streaming is an alternative to file downloading, a process in which the end user obtains the entire file for the content before watching or listening to it. Because of such advances, our expectations today from AV heritage institutions, or institutions, I should say, libraries, archives, and museums that hold such content are high. We expect, as users, fast, reliable, and efficient access. Moreover, there is this idea of creative use or enhancing user experience. So not only users want access, they also want to become creators or part of the creation process. But this is not the complete picture. As I heard my esteemed colleague, Mrs. Zane Grossa before, as she said, there are still institutions that are struggling with institutional backlogs, both in documentation as well as in digitization. So a significant part of our cultural record today, of this century, as well as of the previous century, is not in a ready-to-share form. There are many archives and memory institutions that are struggling with these facts. They have to deal with intellectual property rights issues, and they're running two-track workflows for managing both analog carriers and born digital content. In this scenario, providing fast, efficient, reliable access is a huge challenge. But despite such interconnected and complex challenges, my presentation today is not about the issues. My presentation is about the potential that we, cultural heritage institutions, hold in our hands in form of audiovisual heritage. Today, there are plenty of opportunities. And I would like to share one very important data, perhaps it has already been shared before in this conference. The cultural and creative sectors in Europe contribute 4.4% of the GDP, which is the gross domestic product, and 12 million full-time jobs, which is a huge number. And audiovisual sector within this larger cultural and creative industry sector has a role to play, and we have to take up that role and understand what are we contributing and what can we contribute to this ever-growing sector. So much so that more this year, the International UN General Assembly into 2020 has declared 2021 International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development. So the time for action is now. We can complain about the multiple issues that we have, but at the same time, we should not fail to overlook the opportunities that are before us and the opportunities that we can affirmatively present to our governments, and how we can become real active partners for sustainable development. In order to act, we need to come together. And this action has to be coordinated. This goes without saying. Yet staying unified for AV preservation and access is not going to be easy, because we are all bound by different laws, different institutional policies. So it's not easy, yet the need of the hour is that we come together. Now, I would like to highlight some challenges also as we go along in this journey, and what are the key challenges that we all have to shore up our courage and face together. One of the common challenges is going to be the born digital video. This has already been flagged, and I don't know, again, I'm sorry I was not able to join this morning. This may have been already been discussed by many of my the colleagues here who have presented, but this is one of the issues that we knew was coming. And today, most of the content that we are generating is in video format. And this has been also flagged in the recent report that has been released by AMIA. And the challenge is that driving the content as well as migrating this content while dealing with institutional backlogs, which have already grown, is going to be immense. Meeting this challenge head on would require institutions to share knowledge, information, as well as standards consistently. So what we need are communities of practice that come together to co-create and test workflows for sustainability of born digital content. Similarly, as I mentioned previously, fast, reliable, and efficient access that enhances the user's experience is part of this challenge of managing born digital content. As content aggregators and big platforms, as content aggregators promote, content through their platforms, or push content through their platforms, and they offer enhanced user experience, smaller institutions are going to face this challenge of competing with them, and they have to develop innovative strategies to reach out to their user communities. And while it is happening, some institutions are using social media to engage their user communities. In times of COVID, this question has become even more relevant. We may be globally connected, but how are we serving the needs of the communities that live on our doorstep? How is, let's say, the Lithuanian National Archives serving the needs of the communities that are right there in Vilnius? How can we contribute to their well-being and engage them in archiving itself? That is the question. And so access should not be only seen to this remote global community. It should also be considered for people who live right next door to that heritage. The final challenge that I would like to speak about, and which in my opinion requires unified action, is that of developing capacity. In 2006, recognizing the need to safeguard endangered sound and image heritage, ICCROM initiated SOIMA, which is Sound and Image Collections Conservation, a capacity development program. One of the SOIMA international courses, and I'm very happy to see Josef is here and Zani is here, was held in Lithuania and Latvia. It was hosted by the two countries jointly, all thanks to the Baltic Audiovisual Archives and the cultural ministries of the two countries. Since its inception, SOIMA has helped to enhance preservation and access for sound and image collections held within 109 institutions in 56 countries. It has trained over 120 professionals and has prepared 20 second generation teachers or trainers. So we have not only helped to train professionals, but we have also introduced a batch of new trainers into the field. However, things have moved on, and this is 2020. 10 years on, training needs have changed vastly. As creation as well as access both have become part of audiovisual preservation workflows. It is important to do this reset. We need today to build capacity for intergenerational skill transfer, not only for the preservation of analog collections, but also for the sustainability of born digital collections. This means institutional roles will have to be rethought. The way we used to see an archivist, we will have to change our thinking. We may have to bring institutions and collections together. We may have to collapse workflows of creation, access, preservation altogether. And to do that, education and training have to be rethought. Why wait for people to reach mid-career professional level and teach them about audiovisual archiving? Why can't we introduce this subject in schools? This is something that we have to think about, because as exponentially we are creating content, as exponentially everybody is contributing to generating this cultural record of this century, we also have to think that we do not hit a dark age by not thinking ahead and by not preparing people and not educating people about the consequences of, or the fragility, let's say, of the audiovisual, born digital audiovisual content. So, in short, knowledge and skills for business planning and tapping the potential of sound and image heritage for creating jobs and sustainable development will also should be incorporated in this new, kind of training or capacity building that we have to think about, and we should think about together. Therefore, we should try to bring users, creators, educators, collectors, IT specialists together and meet these needs and try to think how we are going to train and educate people at different stages of their lives? And how can then we make our users the archivists of the future? To move ahead, ICROM, in collaboration with Netherlands Institute of Sound and Vision, is now thinking of developing a big scoping study and trying to understand who should be trained and how they should be trained and how we can rethink AV archiving or institutions and institutional policies around it so that we can tap the potential of sound and image heritage as well as digital heritage. I would like to invite people who are attending this conference, institutions that are attending this conference, especially BAC, the Ministry of Culture of Lithuania, everybody to join us in this initiative. And soon we will be reaching out with calls and we'll be also holding consultations with various stakeholders. And this is something that is coming from us because we feel that in these times of COVID, when in-person training has almost become a distant dream, we need to rethink how to build capacities and develop capacities in this area in order to meet the challenges of 21st century.
I'm sorry, we can hear some noise next to your voice. Something is going on there.
Oh, sorry. I'll just close my door then.
Okay.
I'm in the office,
Okay.
perhaps.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So I'm just actually done. Actually, I'm done with my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm trying to give you a virtual applause and thank you for an amazing insights actually on the topic. Miss Aparna Tandon will stay with us for a Q&A session right after two more upcoming presentations, and the next speaker should be Miss Kaisa Anander, but I'm not sure if she is with us. Sweden, we already had Sweden in the beginning of this conference. So we will continue with Mr. Jarmo Nagel, born digital film specialist from Film Archives, the National Archives of Estonia. If we have Jarmo ready for the presentation, welcome, the floor is yours. Yes, there is hope. There is hope.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, hello.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So, hello, my name is Jarmo Nagel. I'm from the National Archives of Estonia. It's good to be here. It's good to be part of this this presentation. So, and I would like to talk about collecting heritage and audience in the National Archives of Estonia. The Film Archives of the National Archives of Estonia has historically been the institution that collects films and other audiovisual material that's kind of opposed to as film institutes do it in the West. So it's we have historically been the center hub of audiovisual heritage. So let's see. When I started here 5 years ago, we had a huge problem with our collections. There was a huge gap in our archive, especially for films made in the late 90s, early 2000s, and even 2010s, when the film makers transitioned from analog carriers to digital carriers, and deposits were spotty at best. So we only had like a few producers who knew about the archive, who knew they had to bring their stuff to the archive. A lot of newer documentary makers and producers didn't even know there was any sort of law demanding they give their things to the archive if they receive government funding. So something had to be done. And the first thing we did was reframe the Legal Deposit Copy Act in 2017. So we tried to widen the scope and remove the point of government funding from the Legal Deposit Act. So now any film that is Estonian made or co-produced or as an Estonian walking behind in the scene somewhere falls under the Legal Deposit Act and has to be deposited into the archive 1 year after the premiere. We also extended like the places where to get this new material and started an extensive outreach to audiovisual content makers, which included schools and production companies who made commercials and so on. So, and the result, we've seen our deposits like triple or even quadruple in the past few years. We're slowly seeing holes in the archive patched up, like older films from the 2000s or 90s even, that still have production companies alive and still have some material somewhere. So that's making its way back to the archive. And also we're seeing a steady influx of new material into the archive. And this is a part of collaboration with the Estonian Film Institute, because if they fund any new films, they're in their contract, they have a clause that stipulates that all the older films have to be deposited in the archive. So far, there hasn't been any sort of control over it, but now we're sharing spreadsheets and keeping a close look on who has what, and if they haven't given any of their older stuff to the archive, and they don't get government funding. So, and this has been the result of our collections, and also we've seen we've been diversifying our collections thanks to this new Legal Deposit Act. So not only film producers, but also we're collaborating with art and film schools. We have theater productions, and we've expanded to government institutions as well. So for instance, the military has their own media center which produces videos. Those end up in the archive. The government proceedings and so on, everything has to end up in the archive, and we made that available and possible. So, and of course there's challenges, preservation challenges. When we started, we had a lot of orphan film formats from the 2000s, a lot of lossy film formats. There was a huge fear of gaze, tease, and novelties. This means higher resolution formats or 3D films or even VR films. I remember the first 4K film we got, people started to panic because the material was 4 times took 4 times more space than a regular full HD movie. And then there were 3D films coming out that we didn't know how to make them available for the public, how to even view a 3D film. Luckily, these novelties have kind of like died out, and we still get 8K material and so on, but that's to be expected. And also accessing it. So far, we've only had an online database where researchers can go look up some film and request a copy or view it on site, but I think the tide is changing. For instance, some of these can be turned into possibilities. For instance, on the technical side, we've become a hub of expertise. So producers come to us for TCP creations, for instance. We're working together with art schools and film schools to guide them towards making image sequences of their films, leaning towards mathematically lossless file formats or open codecs and so on. And also we'll be starting to become a hub of heritage in the access department. We're planning to make a VOD platform to make a curated collection of our material available to the public. We're already having a film program, so once a month we do film screenings in Tallinn and Tartu. There's a gallery space where we host exhibitions, also with outside artists. Been thinking about how to make the curated collections appealing to which sort of audiences. So it's something that's in progress. Let's see, and dividing up the access part into database for researchers, but also something that would be entertaining for the casual viewer. That's, yeah. So turning this heritage into a story for a casual consumer is something that we're trying to do with our different outreaches and platforms. And as I said, one of these ways is to create the curated VOD platform, but also had great success in collaboration with artists in our gallery space. I think one of the most interesting collaborations was with a French artist who made a video game museum in our gallery space that still operates in a new location, but is going to be a part of the National Library, and it might open up the door for the National Archives to start collecting Estonian-made video games. But we'll see what the future will bring. Okay, yeah. So that's it. Thank you. I hope you heard me. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Jarmo, please stay with us. We still do have one speaker left for our session. Well, maybe we should follow up with the Q&A session. I would invite everybody to join us since we do not have Kaisa yet. Yes. I would like to invite everyone here, and the question is very simple, actually, very practical to all of you. Within your projects, when you plan something, how do you plan financing? Is it the kind of national financing, 100%, 70%? Where do you find your funds for your projects? Oh, I'm sorry, I see Kaisa there. Yes. So we go back to final presentation, and my question, let it remain for the Q&A session for everyone to count their budgets. Kaisa, are you there? Do you hear me, and are you ready?
Yes, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I do. So I am just presenting Kaisa Anander. I hope I pronounce your surname well, the head of digitization from the National Library of Sweden. So welcome us back to Sweden again, and Kaisa, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for asking me to participate in this conference. I'm so inspired about all these stories I have heard during the day, and I really feel too that you in Lithuania, for example, have done a lot of that we are aiming to do in the future, or waiting, or not even started yet. So, but let's come back to that. I will just say a few words about my presentation. Well, this is a little bit different. I actually feel when I think about you others who have presented today, because this I will show you in the beginning some slides about the National Library. So we are part of when the Audiovisual Archive is part of the National Library. So it's a little bit like to have a stepmother, well, loving stepmother, but anyway, because it's somehow anyway that the questions are very, very big. They are like about the democracy, and these ladies you can see here, they are from the 1918. There was a time window between 1918 to 1921, and when the women's vote in Sweden was get through in 21. So these ones are, and I'm not going to read all these. You're getting my presentation then, but I just want to give you a feeling about how it can be a little bit difficult sometimes to represent the audiovisual heritage in this context. And we are, of course, for the freedom of information, as this conference too is about, and we are part of this kind of library community too. And but the most important task for Swedish National Library is, of course, to promote the quality of Swedish research and democratic society through providing source materials and an efficient research infrastructure. Collect, describe, preserve, and provide. These are the key parts of our duties. And it's like for many other libraries, the reference copies, bibliography, research resources, national agency, and as I told about collecting, describing, preserving, and providing access. And I will come back to providing access a little bit later. The milestones are always presented like this, from the first book and the terrible fire at the royal castle in the 1697, and all this. And I mean, Sweden was the second country in Europe after England to have something that became legal deposit then, but it was, of course, in the beginning for the king to have a look what kind of books were printed. And again, it just keep on going in the book terms. And from 1979, the new legal deposit was even includes sound and moving images, and a new agency, ALB, it was established. And our collection is from that time. 1993, even the legal deposit was concerning even the multimedia, computer games and so on. And 2012, the legal deposit was extended to the electronic documents. And the last interesting thing is this 2019, last year in May, when we got it's for data research. It's called KB Lab. And we operate from 5 places, and the most important for the audiovisual side is the Filmarkivet, Film Archives in Grängesberg, and there we have the private films and from the companies and so on, and all the legal deposit is in Stockholm, in Garnisonen. Here are the numbers, 7.6 kilometers microfilm for the newspapers, for example, and 10 million hours video and sound cassettes, CD and DVD, 9 million hours, and so on. And the collections are all this. Now we even film music and games, as I told you. And the really a little bit anecdotic thing is this Nelly Sachs room. She was a Nobel Prize author, and when she died, her apartment was donated to the library, and now we have it in the cellar. And one of the key visions is free information for future and knowledge. And of course, the audiovisual heritage is a very important part of that. How do you get access to our collections then? I have started with those two important ones for the audiovisual collections, and SMDB, it's for the audiovisual part, and there is this kind of, I just made one search on Lithuania, and there was 1,424 hits. And in filmarkivet.se, which is the window where all those films that have where the copyright is cleared, there was nothing, but there was something from Latvia. So that could be better in the future. Now we can when we get some friends in this conference. And the Filmarkivforskning, it's about the film research. It's another site. Svenska dagstidningar, they are the newspapers, and there is something interesting about the access for the, because of the pandemic now, we had a special license for the newspapers for 3 months. And that made that we got a big prize from the digital humanities community. They wanted to award it this year because it was such a great help for everybody to get access from home. But now it's closed again because it would be too expensive. But we hope that in the future that could be in the place. And we really have like, it's a huge 120 million pages or something like that. Very, very great stock. And in Arken, it's for the private archives, and there I found from Lithuania some letters from the children when Astrid Lindgren, the author for the kids' books, when she was when she turned 90 years. So there were a lot of birthday greetings from the Lithuanian children. And I can just go further. But in 2018, maybe you remember the elections in Sweden was a great disaster. It took like 4 months to find a new government. And just before the elections, we had made a kind of suggestion for the cultural ministry that we should do something for something that you already have done in Lithuania. I mean, to analyze what kind of resources and where there are audiovisual material in the museums and in the other. And we made a great booklet and left in, but we haven't heard yet anything. So we hope that when the pandemic gets a little bit slower, we can go back to this kind of questions again. The big three there are the big three institutions with audiovisual heritage in Sweden. The Swedish Film Institute, public broadcaster, radio and television, public service, SVT and SR, and National Library of Sweden. We would like to get, I have to jump back. This picture is from our large-scale magnetic tape. This is only half of them. There are 16 machines we can use for that magnetic tapes. But and we would like to get this sorted out. Whose responsibility is to take care of magnetic tapes, and who is going to take the other parts. And already 2011, the Minister of Culture commissioned that the Swedish National Archives to present the national strategy for speeding up the digitization of the cultural heritage collections. And then this Digitization was created. And the report was presented 2015, and as you see, that much hasn't happened since then. But still, we all can, audiovisual recordings hold important information about our national cultural heritage. Everybody, you are my friends, everybody can agree that, but still we need to take some more steps to get there. And what needs to be done now? Launch a national inventory, which you already have done in Lithuania, as I saw, and in a good way in Latvia. And propose a prioritized national digitization plan and establish national nodes for digitization. And here is a quite, we are coming to the good practice maybe now, because during the 2018 and 19, we get the possibility to rebuild our facilities here, and now we really have a modern digitization, almost an industry, I could say. But the only thing we are lacking is to just to get a better prioritization for that, and of course investigate further the legal issues of concerning business models and so on. And we are on a good way to try to establish long-term digital preservation. And how to perform a national inventory? I mean, you already know. Coordination on a national level involving archives, libraries and museums at the regional and local level, involve researchers, set up national register over audiovisual collections, establish an efficient model, start with one list, and learn from Norway. We always look at Norway, but in the future we will look at Lithuania too. And here, we here at the National Library, we could start with, we should be a node because of the modern techniques now, but it's not really sure yet that we can get this kind of mission from the government. But we have everything needed, so we are just waiting for to be able to go on. We would like to coordinate the work on a prioritized plan for digitization and set up a node, as I told, and make the guidelines and just to try to create better access for the researchers. And for the Film Institute, they should take care of the high quality films and set up a node for that. Well, these are the same. I have been talking a lot about this already, but there is a little issue about these two legislations too. The National Library is the legal deposit is the most important for us, and there is a little bit problems with the archive law in that. And there have been an archive investigation, but we don't yet know how the law is going to be. And as I told the ladies with the hats, there is a lot of celebration for the democracy 100 years in Sweden just now. Well, we really still dream of this kind of national audiovisual archive in Sweden with a more clear mission. Now to the news stories. What kind of news stories are the archives telling? As I told that the newspaper, the access to the newspapers was really important for both for the public and for the researchers. And this KB lab, as it's called, started in May 2019, and it because of the pandemic, it has been a little bit difficult to get everything working as it was planned. For example, just as an anecdote, the very powerful computers which were ordered from China, they are still on the way. And this is going to turn to more and more to data mining, artificial intelligence research. And for example, there is this project about the speech to text, which is together with the Royal Technical Institute in Stockholm. And I mean, everybody wants to work with us because we have the resources. I mean, a lot of speech, a lot of text. We even have on a cassette the newspapers which are read for the people who can't see that well, and so you could really train a good algorithms here. And Vestak is the welfare state analytics. It's a really big process to analyze all the literature after the Second World War to 1980s. Then we are doing from the postcards. They are very all researchers in the environmental research are interested in to see what kind of differences there are in the nature, and even the image recognition is I mean, they can be trained by the postcards. So, well, the audiovisual heritage is I mean, we just keep on digitizing, and then all these resources are going to merge together and to become, yeah, well, a very various material for different research. I think my time is out.
I think you could finish your presentation with a normal pace. We are on time. We are okay. Yeah, you can continue if you still have something to say. We are not...
Well, that's just I have some interesting anecdotes about archives telling stories. For example, for some weeks ago, like maybe 2 months ago, we were contacted from Brazil and they had found in our archive like 40 seconds pictures when this famous football player Pelé was 17 years and he was playing in 1958, and this was never shown before. So they were really, really excited, and it became a kind of present for the great football player for his 80 years celebration. And well, and then there is during the day I have been, when we have been talking, for example, about the EU screen, so I just made some hits, and if you just have a search for Lithuania in EU screen, there will be 661 hits, and for Sweden only 80. So you really do a great job, and I have something to look after to try to start competing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your interesting and inspiring presentation. And we will continue with the Q&A session, which might be not so long. I will just wait for others to join us. My question that I've already announced was about budgets of projects. These look really vast and expensive initiatives. I wonder how do you plan it on your national level, co-funding your projects, etc. When we have, yes, we have everyone. So most probably this funding question is dedicated to practitioners working with projects, if I can specify.
Regarding the projects, actually, I can of course only speak for my institution, the National Library, and as far as I know, they were just using the European project, the possibility to apply for the European project that was expressly dedicated for digitization of material, and so my colleagues were successful in applying for the project, and that was how it was made possible to digitize such a big amount of all kinds of materials. So you have to look out for those, I guess.
Thank you, Zane. Anybody else would share?
I was just, we have been, the easiest funding project we have had have been the newspapers. So here is even here the problem that it's not so easy to get understanding for the audiovisual heritage. But I really hope that if we can put more effort on that and learn from the newspaper projects, so maybe it could be easier in the future.
Okay, we haven't mentioned one situation which has covered up the whole world for the past year, you know, this famous 2020 thing. And I was actually wondering why all day long we were talking about important things regarding audiovisual heritage, so many layers of issues, troubles and opportunities. But how about the pandemic situation? Did you experience, or is there any significant change in practice concerning audiovisual heritage, you know, both preservation and dissemination, that you feel is like on the ready, hot and ready to go, to be done, to be implemented, or you are implementing something already? I'm not asking about damage made by pandemic year, more likely about opportunities and some things that are already implemented or going to be implemented as an opportunity, as a good kind of positive thing for audiovisual heritage sector.
Well, VOD platforms have seen a great boom during the pandemic. So it's one of these sectors that is growing because people are staying inside, they're staying home, they're investing in media and entertainment. And I don't have the numbers for this year, but I can I can already say that there's been more feature films and media made during this year and maybe even next year than there have been previous years in Estonia. There are some, I think, technical changes that might come with this. For instance, if you make movies for a cinema, you create a TCP package, but for VOD platforms, it's an IMF standard, which is something new that we're looking into, that maybe we should add to the preservation strategy to be able to deal with IMFs, just as we have been dealing with TCPs. But that's a minor technical issue. But other than that, I think it's the perfect time to think about the access and online access for audiovisual content. Like, how do you present your collections to the public that's already behind the computer and watching Netflix? How do you differentiate yourself from that? You don't need to compete with it. There's no point in competing with Netflix and Disney Plus and so on. But how do you add value to your platform if you do have a platform there? Can you maybe add some social aspect to it? Maybe, especially if you're looking for funding, maybe reach out to the educational sector and put your material in a classroom format. Maybe create playlists with historical films that you present to teachers and schools for use in their classwork and so on. So there's a lot of opportunities for access.
I would like to also second that, if I may.
Yes, sure. And, please enter without. Yes.
No, because I think what the previous speaker has been saying, I completely agree. Because ICROM, I don't know if I made it clear before, is an intergovernmental organization. And we have been looking at capacity building in the area of audiovisual preservation, and the trends that we are collecting from our various constituencies, as well as from member states, from practicing organizations, is basically that there is a greater need for demand for access. And this time has also made smaller institutions that are not, that cannot afford the web streaming services, like what I also highlighted in my presentation, like the Netflix, and they are using new ways to push content and bring, audience or user communities to their platforms or to their websites. By exploiting the social media. And as has been said previously, there is now more opportunity for schools, education, everywhere there is need for content, and if this is the time to reach out. And that's why, again, in my, keeping these trends in view, I think it's very important that we start rethinking how we train next generation of archivists, and how the skills should be given also on how to prioritize content, or also to tell stories, as well as take other aspects of it. So, but it's not a job one person. So there are tremendous opportunities, and they can be tapped into, but provided there is also institutional resolve behind it. The institutions have to, the policymakers, the decision makers also have to back up the institutions in this time and take opportunity of what is out there. So certainly the COVID-19 pandemic has just, the digital imperative was there, but it has just now, it's like added speed to those efforts. And it is time that we take, exploit those opportunities, and also think of innovation. It's not about having all the resources, but it's about doing best with what you have. And definitely learning how to even use social media. And there are very good examples that have been given to us. And I think it's that community of practice that we need to share together in conferences like this one.
Thank you. Yes, of course. It kind of refers me to a mobility funds problem, which have been just stopped since the end of 2019 or the beginning of 2020, and they are now rethinking the funding opportunities, how to continue with giving different sectors an opportunity to share their knowledge, to provide capacity building, for instance, which was the priority for 7 years at Creative Europe's funding programs. But also, I remember you mentioning, Mr. Parma, you mentioning the Born Digital, and this again, this need for capacity building and need for adopting skills and competences which are purely managemental, let's say, the marketing managemental qualities, social media, communication skills, etc., which widens the person's which is managing the archives of audiovisual heritage into an enormous, kind of Ubermensch, a person which has to have a lot of skill going on. But here I also remember the European Union statement on what is called audience development, which includes, as well as communication, social media, development of audiences, finding connection with them, involving audiences into different processes that we want to have them being stakeholders in. And the audience development, it seems like it will remain in the next period, as far as I know, of financing from EU, as well as heritage as the identity, as the identity builder, identity, main identity thing. And this hashtag, perhaps Heritage for Future, actually refers not only to a heritage question sector, but as well as the audience development priority, which is going to remain here, I guess. This is a kind of positive remark from me.
If I may just very quickly say that I was not saying that all the skills have to be in this super specialist archive of the next century, but of the next generation, archivist of the next generation. What I was trying to hint at is that we need clear-cut policies now. It's the time for developing, also resetting policies, institutional policies. And if any one of us who's attending this conference today, if we haven't figured out who are our primary constituents or who are our primary communities, then we cannot expect to push our content and target them through social media or other platforms. So I'm not talking about extraordinary resources or either. I'm just asking about institutional resolve. When are we going to? Yes, we have backlogs, but we also have an accountability to some audiences who are right next door to our, who are living right next door in the city. So how many of them we are reaching out to? How are we reaching out them to? What is our institutional mandate? Something so simple. I mean, I have here practitioners sitting, esteemed colleagues who have really highlighted very good things. But yes, but there are some things that can be done with what we have now. So what is it that we can do with what we have now? That's what I'm saying.
Yes, thank you very much. Is there anything to add from any one of you? Or we are going to wrap up our session. Yes, so I need to thank you so much, all of you, for joining us in this conference, and I hope the audience will be able to see you live in the future, as well as beautiful artifacts that are being restored, archived, saved, and reused by you and your colleagues. And now I want to go to the closing session step, where we do have a really lovely guest here. We had our Minister of Culture opening this conference to this. And here I want to invite another important policy maker from Ministry of Culture, Ms. Ingrida Veliūtė, for final remarks. She's the Vice Minister of Culture of the Republic of Lithuania and is working in this field. So I think she could give us some kind of wrapping up insights on the topic we had all day long in the conference.
Hello. Can you hear me? Is everything okay?
Yes,
okay.
It's perfect.
So, dear colleagues, actually I'm very proud for the possibility to give the closing speech for this important conference marking the World Day for Audiovisual Heritage. On this day, since 2005, UNESCO has chosen to highlight the importance of audiovisual documents and the risks associated with their preservation. Also this year, the coronavirus pandemic has disrupted culture, artistic and other activities around the world. The new opportunities for digital transformation, more efficient use of digitized and digital culture heritage resources have risen up. As we started from culture shock in the early morning today, in the paper that was given by Executive Director of Europeana Foundation, Mr. Harry Verweyen, and finished with the new kind of stories and special missions presented by Mrs. Kajsa Unander, head of digitalization of the National Library of Sweden. It is easy to understand the importance of the potential of audiovisual heritage and wide range of research topics in this field. It was really a great honor and valuable experience today to have so interesting keynote speakers from the already mentioned Europeana, Wikimedia and ICROM, other distinguished specialists from Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, the Netherlands and Sweden, who shared very important and impressive examples of the best practices not only in different countries, but also about different platforms and wide possibilities. This conference is very important ascent of this year and one more step to the digitalized life. in order to improve the field of audiovisual heritage preservation and to have the actual information. This year, the Ministry of Culture of the Republic of Lithuania is commissioning a study titled Analysis of the Lithuanian Audiovisual Culture Heritage Preservation and Access System and Recommendations for Development. The part of results of this research was already presented today. The Minister will have final conclusions of the study next year, and I hope it will help us to start the activities of National Center of Excellences for the Digitalization and of Audiovisual Heritage. And one more next year thing is that in 2021 is announced as the Year of Archives, as we are celebrating 100 years since the establishment of the first state archive in the Republic of Lithuania. So we have a lot to do. In this regard, the Minister of Culture kindly thanks to all speakers and presenters, and of course for the conference partners. Baltic Audiovisual Archives Council, Martynas Mažvydas National Library of Lithuania, the Lithuanian National Radio and Television, the artist Joshua Sabin from the United Kingdom for the provided video and audio material, and all organizers of the digital event. Lithuania is prepared to follow UNESCO recommendations and to be a part of professional archive organizations' mission to encourage, promote, and celebrate the preservation and accessibility of the world's audiovisual heritage in all its forms. Thank you very much for all of you, and stay connected.
Thank you very much for this inspiring closing session speech and final remarks where I don't really have much to add. Just to sincerely thank all the people that have contributed to this conference today, who contributes every single day to audiovisual heritage, its restoration, access to people, as well as reuse and dissemination to everyone in this world, to communities, to people in cities and the world, both digitally and other ways that we know. I also want to thank one person who was not visible today. Her name is Rugilė Podžiūnienė, and I think dear guests were contacting her as the main as initiating person and organizing person within the Ministry of Culture. So this is everything we need to know and to say goodbye, not for a long time, I hope so, following up within a year of archives and following up with all of the different conferences which are accessible to us like never before. So I thank you all, and we are leaving for good for audiovisual heritage. Goodbye.